Hi everyone. I am so sorry, guys. Um, I did not know or realize the source or the etymology of the word juggernaut before I used it the other day. I didn't know I really didn't know. I had no clue. I didn't know what the source of the word juggernaut was or what its etymology was. All I knew is that it meant a destructive force of great power, and had no clue about the source of the word juggernaut. I didn't know. Honestly, did not know. Um, So let's talk a little bit about juggernaut. Okay, this word gets bandied about a lot. Apparently, Trump's campaign manager thought it sounded cool, and he used the word juggernaut to describe Trump's new campaign. And I've heard the liberal media use the word juggernaut a lot. A lot. They just use the word juggernaut every 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, everything's a juggernaut, right? So I began picking up this word. I picked up this word by hearing it used by liberals, by the liberal media, and others. People use the word juggernaut because it sounds cool, and they think the word juggernaut shows that they're real smart. It's a real fancy word. It's a real big word in the dictionary. It's a word that's not in common use, and most people don't know, but they use the word very often. They use it frequently because they just like it. It's got a ring to it. They like the sound of it, and they use the word juggernaut. So I picked up this word juggernaut, and I used it the other day without knowing the etymology of the word or the source of the word, or all I knew was the meaning. I just thought it was an English word, and had no clue where it came from. Well, apparently, this unstoppable force for destruction, this juggernaut, okay, that's going to destroy all its enemies, actually comes from, well, there's two parts to it. There's two parts to the word. There's the English interpretation and where that comes from, and then there's the original word. So I'll start with the original word first. Juggernaut is the name of a Hindu god, and I had no clue. I had no clue that Juggernaut was the name of a Hindu god. No clue. Absolutely clueless. And there's a million Hindu gods. So if there's a million Hindu gods, how can I be expected to be familiar with them all and know them all? Now you could argue, well, Juggernaut is very well known, and Juggernaut is one of the better known gods, and you should have known, and you should have looked up the etymology before you used the word, and you should have known. Well, you know, the way I feel specifically about people who pass judgment and are just filled with revulsion and hatred instantly towards someone who doesn't know something, even when they're just learning this thing for the first time themselves. They're just hearing something for the first time themselves and knew nothing about it, but then hear, aha, they didn't know either, and they judge that person for not knowing that thing and using that word or saying that specific thing without knowing, and it wasn't their fault. People like that just get on my nerves. They creep me out. People like that creep me out. And there's so many liberals that are that way. I've noticed this. Noticed this ever since I moved here. And it's a liberal state. There's so many people that are just full of hatred. They're full of hate. Their hearts are full of hate. They're full of revulsion for others. And they especially hate ignorance, and they hate people that don't know things, even when they're things that they're just learning just now or didn't know. So they love hating They love passing judgment on others. Now, my mom says, she says, well, that's the way Republicans are. And all the people back home in our state that she used to know, they're all Republicans. And she says they're so full of hate. So full of hate. And they're so full of loathing. And all they do is rant all day long. All they do is hate all day long. All they do is rant and hate. And apparently it cuts both ways. There's a lot of hatred on both sides for the other team. And my mom chooses not to see the hate on her side of the aisle, and chooses only to see the hatred of Republicans. And you know, she always counters whenever I say anything about like some hatred I've observed. She always counters it with, well, yeah, well, but look at what Republicans do. They're more hateful, and they do worse things, and they say worse things. So, up to you to decide what you think of this. Are Americans now, are their hearts full of hate? Have we given over to hate? So back to Juggernaut. Okay. So the first part of it is that he's a Hindu god, and supposedly was Krishna, who's a avatar of Vishnu. So in one of his incarnations, he was Juggernaut. He was walking one day, and he heard the cow maidens. The cow maidens were talking, and they're saying how beautiful Krishna was and how much they love him. And as they were describing him, it was so wonderful, all the things they were saying, that supposedly his arms shrank until they were inside of his body like this. And his eyes got wide as saucers, and his mouth was gaping in a big smile, like, ah. And then that was Juggernaut, that he became Juggernaut. And so they made an idol of Juggernaut. And this is part 2, okay? The idol was about 45 to 60 feet tall. And they dragged it through the streets in their celebration of Juggernaut every year. And apparently this idol ran over some people. Now, and because it was steered very poorly, it was steered badly, and there were some accidents, and some people got killed every year. And so then there were reports. There was a report by this Englishman. You know, when Englishmen report anything, everything gets skewed, right? And this Englishman said, well, Juggernaut, that people were sacrificing themselves to Juggernaut. People were running and throwing themselves underneath the wheels of this idol to sacrifice themselves as a human sacrifice to Juggernaut, that they were throwing themselves underneath the wheels to sacrifice themselves. So then Juggernaut in English becomes a word synonymous with a destructive, inexorable, unstoppable force for harm. Not necessarily for evil, but for harm and destruction. So Juggernaut became associated with destruction because of this idol that was badly guided through the streets. And it was on wheels. And I was horrified reading this. I didn't know what to think of it. It was so horrifying reading about these people being crushed to death that I couldn't think. My mind became incapable of rational thought, and I just couldn't think of anything else. I just was picturing these people being crushed to death under these wheels, and even the thought of them sacrificing themselves was horrific. We don't know. Okay, we don't know. This was, maybe it still is going on, but it happened many, many years ago that this Englishman made this report. It was in the 19th century, possibly, or earlier. And we don't know. It could be true. It may not be true. However, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether it was true or not. It's the fact that he wrote it and that people began misappropriating this word that was basically holy to a certain sect of Hindus. And so this word is actually very inappropriate, and it's very degrading, insulting, and it's not racially degrading, it is religiously degrading, and it's insulting. It's insulting to use this word juggernaut in this way. And I just picked it up from these liberals. We're all using the word juggernaut. I picked it up from them, and I really shouldn't have repeated it, but I didn't know. I didn't know where it came from, and so I used it, and now I regret it. And so I'm sorry I didn't know. Sorry for not knowing. And I guess I should have known better, but I'm not goddess, so I don't know everything. And so my human knowledge is limited. Certain Hindus will claim, yeah, well, but if it went like this, 16 hours a day, and you too could know it all. And even if there's something you don't know, you'll apprehend it before you can counter it. So it's no one's fault but your own. Maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't. But I had very bad experience with breathing exercises. Okay, guys. And you might too. You might have a bad experience with breathing exercises too. So I don't generally recommend breathing exercises. I can't, because it yielded a bad result for me. Might be different for you, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't try it. So back to Juggernaut. People that are using this word insulting to Hindus, and should never use this word juggernaut in this sense, because somebody's God, right? Not necessarily your God, and if you're a Christian, you may not care, but yeah, it is a form. The way it's being used, it is a form of white privilege. So probably best not to use the word juggernaut. However, let's get to the second part. Okay, let's get to the second part, which is diversity. Okay, diversity is a problem, and it's not a problem being diverse. That's not the problem. Problem is the way that diversity is used to divide and conquer people. Okay, and you doubt this, but it really is. There's no doubt in my mind at all that this country is divided along political lines based upon diversity. It's so divisive. And you wonder, well, why? Why is this divisive? Why? Why should it be divisive? Well, okay, if you live in a country where like 99% of the population is the same nationality and race as you, you wouldn't understand. But I really think like perhaps the European countries understand better, and also India, they would understand because there's a lot of diversity in these countries now. And, well, there always has been diversity in India, and now there's more diversity now in like the UK and Germany and all these, what is the word? Refuge or not refugees, it's like San Francisco. It's a refuge for the refugees. So these refuge countries, these starts with an S. I can't think of it. So these countries that take in refugees have become very diverse, and you wonder, well, why? Why would diversity ever be a problem? Let's put it this way: the reason that diversity is a problem is the way that it's used. The way that it's used. Basically, champions of this diversity, when they say diversity, they're not talking really about a beautiful rainbow. That's not what they're talking about. What they're talking about is basically picking and choosing people based on their skin color, their gender, or a combination of the two. So let's say you're up for a job, and it's Johnny and Matilda. I made up a couple of names, and Johnny's this white guy, and Matilda is I don't know, maybe she's African American, and she's a woman. So we're going to pick Matilda instead of Johnny every time because we are a diverse workplace. And Johnny doesn't have a place here. Only Matilda does. And that wouldn't be a problem ordinarily because there's plenty of jobs, right? Eventually Johnny's going to get a job somewhere. But it becomes a problem when it, like, for example, the President of the United States. Let's put it that way. Very, very limited, very small, very limited market for jobs, okay? Very small, very limited. With President and Vice President, there can only be one of each. There can only be one. Can only be one president, and he can only pick one vice president. So who he picks is incredibly important. Oh yeah, it matters. It matters who he picks. Now, here's the real question. When he chooses, what is going to be the most important thing about the person he chooses? What is the number one most important thing about the person he chooses? Is it, well, you think, okay, this is vice president, this is pretty important, we have to think about this now. Is it going to be the person's hopes, the person's dreams, the person's aspirations, the person's political views? Is it going to be their thoughts? Is it going to be their feelings? Is it going to be their skin color? Yeah, it's going to be their skin color. We don't care about the rest. All we care about is the skin color. Now you see the problem, right? You see the problem, right? It's that the most important thing, the very most important thing to Joe Biden is a person's skin color. That's a problem. That's a problem. He said such terribly bigoted things about African Americans. It's almost shocking. He said such terrible things about African Americans, but now he's choosing his running mate solely on her skin color and not even considering her mind or what her thoughts or her feelings. It's like he's not even aware. Or it's just not important to him. But think about this. Maybe her thoughts and feelings really are important to him. After all, they've been very close friends for many years. Maybe Biden is farther left-leaning than we think. Maybe Biden is a communist himself and just pretends, puts up a front to win votes, to get into office, and then he changes his tune. Like they were saying on Fox News recently, you can check out the links in the description. They were saying on Fox News that basically we don't know what Biden stands for. Not true. We do know. We have a very extensive voting record of him. We just don't know this election cycle what he stands for, or this election cycle. But we can look at his voting record, see how he was soft on China, how he appointed all guys that were soft on China, and how he's going to continue to be soft on China right to the bitter end. And I guarantee you that when the end comes, it will be very bitter. So this could matter. This could count for thousands of lives. If it comes down to thousands of, or even millions of lives, what do you think of diversity then? Do you really still agree with Biden that skin color should be the single most important thing that you judge a candidate by? Isn't that sort of the same thing as what people call a juggernaut? It's this force for destruction. It's a force for destruction, not insulting any Hindus here, using the word juggernaut again, but just using the force for destruction. Isn't that sort of the definition of diversity, is the force for destruction, when the way it's being used? The way it's being used now, where person's skin color is the most important thing, and not the content of their character. And I know a lot of African Americans. I don't know a lot of Indians. I really haven't had the opportunity to get to know any Indians personally. I've only known a couple, maybe one or two. Actually, not even Indians. They were Nepalese, and I haven't known any Indians personally. But from what I've read and with interactions, maybe business interactions with Indians, I've had a favorable impression. And I know that there's a lot of good-hearted African Americans. Biden had a lot of people to choose from, a lot. He could have picked anyone other than Kamala Harris, and he didn't. He chose to pick Kamala Harris, apparently because of his friendship. Friendship seems more important to him than judging a person's character or just sitting down and interviewing them for a job. It's just all buddy-buddy with him. Who's my buddy? And not only do I doubt, I think Biden's a scalawag. I think he's a real scalawag. I doubt his judgment of character, his ability to judge character. And I also doubt Trump's ability to judge character, just based on his interactions with Jinping and Kim Jong-un and Putin. He hasn't been the best judge of character, but Biden is not a good judge of character either. People that he's picking now, they're so extreme. They're such extreme people. When you hear the quotes, check out the link, Fox News. Hear the quotes that some of the people that he's appointing now to positions of power in his administration, the things they've said, it's unconscionable, it's unbelievable. So that's it. Sorry for using Juggernaut. Think twice before I use any word a liberal has used. I really will. I really will think twice about it. And as far as liberals go, liberals, they're not perfect either. They're not perfect either. Let's put it that way. They're not perfect either. There's takes all types to make a world, and liberals are about as far from perfection as you can get. Now, I don't champion perfection in any way, shape, or form. And I don't expect perfection from others. And I don't think perfection is an ideal to be subscribed to. However, when people admire and even worship perfection, when people admire perfection, people worship perfection, they become holier than thou, and it's people who are holier than thou that I have a problem with. I think Jesus was the same way. I think he had a problem with people who were holier than thou. Like, for example, he called the Pharisees hypocrites because the Pharisees were holier than thou, and they wanted to think that they were perfect people, that they had achieved perfection, and he knew that they were the opposite of what they claimed to be, and so he called them hypocrites. And thought that they were hypocrites, and he loved sinners because apparently he thought that perfection was also flawed too, or at least I guess that he thought that. Maybe he wanted to perfect people. I don't know. Maybe he did. Maybe he wanted people. I think he said, "Be thou perfected." I think he did want to perfect people, which I do not. But that's one disagreement. But I can kind of understand about hypocrisy. I can understand that. I can understand that holier than thou, that people shouldn't vaunt themselves. And the belief in liberalism is basically the belief that man is perfectible and should be perfected right here on earth. And it's just not going to fly. It's not going to fly. It's not going to work. And it never works. It's not a very good idea. So it's all in the realm of the mind. It's all about ideas. That's what it is. And people are, like, liberals can be fanboys too. They're fanboys of perfectibility, and they're fanboys of some of them are fans of communism, and they're definitely fans of socialism now, and fanboys of Bernie, the Bernie bros. So it is sort of a cult-like atmosphere as well. It's true. Politics. These politicians now have become like gods to people. They're people's gods. And just like any god, people worship them. They're just human beings like you and me. They're not worthy of our worship. They don't deserve worship. So, Biden definitely doesn't deserve to be worshipped. I mean, he's so flawed. He's such a flawed human being, and can't even see his own flaws either. Just doesn't feel any guilt for anything he's ever done. He's so flawed. So that's it. Take care, everyone, and I will see you again very soon. But do know that thinking about this, I'm toying with the idea right now. My videos may end for a little while. I don't know when exactly, but they may not. I may take a while, a little while off for making videos, but not yet, not yet. So I'll let you know. I'll let you know when that's happening, and I'll see you next time.